Good morning. It's still morning, it hasn't got to 12 yet. I was in a breakfast session not far from this lovely building here, and near to this is the school Svatého Štěpána, which is St. Stephen's School, and this is Stepanska, the street. Stepanska also goes down there to Václavské náměstí. In the distance you can see the dome of the German Chamber, which I filmed before, and this is where I was this morning, and this is where you need to come if you want a bunch of free services, if you're bringing some interesting business into the Czech Republic. You get some stuff from there, some basically data about the Czech Republic, some contacts. Basically you don't need most of the contacts in the area of bookkeeping and tax advice, companies set up, application for licenses, stuff like that, because if you want a lawyer or a accounting firm, tax advisory firm, bookkeeper, auditor, due diligence, any of that stuff, then they're only going to give you somebody who's more expensive than me and not as good. So, but still, there is some things that they can give you for free there, so you can look at their website, which is Czechinvest.org, and that was a nice friendly presentation by a number of people there, and they give you some detail about the industry sectors. If you contact them and you want to know about automotive or life sciences, things like that, and what the Czech Republic has for such cases. These look like Scottish people. I heard that there was a bunch of people out in kilts in the Czech Republic. I think that a kilt, unless it's worn properly, if it just sits and hangs there like a girl's skirt, doesn't look good at all. If it's worn properly by somebody that knows how to wear it, then it's, you know, it's obviously a fine Scottish tradition. But honestly, when people just casually just slap things that aren't even proper kilts on themselves, then sorry, but you know, they just look like a bunch of girls. Chan Chang. You know, I don't have to go too far in this country without seeing a naked body. So, I went there from my flat in the morning on a tram, but where I thought the tram went and where the tram actually went was slightly different, so I had a 10-minute walk at the end, which isn't a big deal. But I was actually the first person to arrive anyway. People seem to amble in like one of Henry VIII's wives, slightly late, and most of them ended up late as well. I'm not sure I've actually walked all the way down Stepanska as such before. I've walked up the street that's to the other side of it that way and back down the other street, the street that's behind it that way, but as such I don't think I've actually walked up and down Stepanska from Václavské náměstí before. So there we go, that's a helpful thing to do it the once, and since I don't do it every day, or you know, I've been here now a year and a half almost, well, 1 year and 5 months. So that's a jolly interesting sign, isn't it? I like imaginative signs for shops. There we've got Seidel. Seidel is a nice Prague name. knihkupectví, and each of the letters is made up by books stacked on one another. There's see that? What sort of things are there here? Well, it looks like there's a lot of children's books. Mark Twain, Dobrodružství, Toma Sawyera, that's the adventures of Tom Sawyer, with words which end in E, long E, which are neuter. In Czech you can't tell whether they're singular, plural, or what case they're in, because the only times when they change is when they're in the plural obliques and the which is dative, instrumental and locative, and when they're in the singular in the instrumental case where they take an M on the end. They also take an M on the end in the plural dative plural. So and then there's ich and emi for the other two cases, locative plural and instrumental plural respectively. People go on as though grammar was the hard thing in learning languages. It isn't. It's just the beginner stuff is grammar. While you're still learning grammar, you're still a beginner. You have to have all the regular paradigms down pat before you can call. Oh, that's interesting. May I? Scottish, not British. I think that's. I agree with you 100%. I'm English. I'm English and not British. I hate being called British automatically. I'm English.
I'm Scottish.
Yes, well, very good thing too. I like Scottish people. And I like English people, but British is a bit kind of like Soviet Union kind of thing. It's better to have Russians and Ukrainians.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. All the best. Scottish, not British. Yeah, I'll go along with that. I'm English, not British. I get irritated actually when people say he's British. In a sense, you can't deny it. You can't deny it at all. So because what they understand by Britain does include Scotland and it does include England. Nevertheless, it's up to an individual, like that gentleman there. If he sees himself not as British but more as Scottish, that's his perfect right. If I see myself more as English than as British, then and partly Welsh I am as well, by the way, then that's also my perfect right. Now, I'm actually, don't tell anybody this because it's a secret, but I am actually about 1/16 Scottish and 1/32 Irish. About a quarter Welsh and the rest English. But one thing I'm definitely not, if I think of myself in any way, is British, because I don't like melting pots. It's as simple as that. I don't mind seeing myself as partly Scottish. I don't mind seeing myself even as partly Irish, although that part is almost invisible, other than the fact that, well, I won't mention my shortcomings, but that's an expat premium centre for Komerční banka. That's the bank I also use. So that is not a good look when they're together with not the right socks and boots and other clothing. If it's just the kilt on its own and worn down below the knee like that, then it really makes them look like bloody girlies. So it's, I have no problem with identifying with each individual nation. In fact, when it comes to England, I'm quite happy to say that I'm a born Geordie and that I come from Hertfordshire, as my sort of like county that I was brought up in, and that also that I'm somebody who went to university in Cambridgeshire. There is one university there that you may have heard of in that county. So means that I, in a sense, you could take it right the way down and say, well, I'm a Hertfordshire hedgehog. There's nothing wrong with people being identified with their locality, is there? At the same time, we can be as mobile as we like. One person that sees himself as Scottish, not British, another person seeing himself as... That's a good old dome of the German thingy. Another one seeing himself as English rather than British. And both in Prague. One guy probably having a good time, the other guy working. And I call this working because I'm going back on foot from a meeting to my office, but so I'd have to do this anyway, but I'm taking advantage of the time to do both a little bit of footwork instead of the taxi, and also film something for your benefit. There we go, there's something that you might find of interest. Cesta k nám se vám nepřizpůsobí, ale naše tarify ano. The route to us is not tailored to your needs, but our tariffs are. That sounds like something Confucius might say. Дорога к нам, к вам, не приспособится. Наши тарифы, да. That's not very good Russian. They could have put that an awful lot more elegantly, I think. So power to you at the end, just in English. So Vodafone obchod. So what they seem to be saying is that it's not easy to find our office, but when you get there, actually it's the whole slogan doesn't work very well. What they should say is something differently. They should say, we're not that easy to find, but if you put the effort in, the rate you'll get off us will be worth it. This is St Wenceslas's personal cukrarna, which is a cake shop, but the Czechinvest people were very generous with cakes, and so I think I had enough cakes there to last me. They had about 8 different types of cake on the table, plus fruit. They didn't have anything savoury, but they had plenty of cakes. And of the 8 types of cake they had available, I think I may have sampled about 5 of them, because I wanted to make it a representative sample. I am, after all, an auditor. So that's certainly something which that may look as though that you've got the television cameras out in force with that big tripod, but what it is something slightly different. And I can't remember the name for it. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I actually did work with one once. That lady's carefully studying how the hole in the ground is developing. And there's something for my wife here. That's right. Check if it's real or not. It's always worth checking. Now I must make sure that I get this right, because you've got a number of things have a similar name. There's hyacinths, and no, that was not a hyacinth. There's rhododendrons, which has got an H in it, although you can't hear it, and that was not a rhododendron. and there's hydrangeas, and that was a hydrangea. But then remembering what that's called in other languages is also difficult, because it's not always called, just like rhododendrons sometimes go under the name of azaleas. There's another funny name for hydrangeas that they appear in the continent, not as hydrangeas. So if you've got a hydrangea or something like that, try and continentalise it, they don't understand what you're saying, but they've got another word for it. Yeah, hortensia, which has nothing to do with what it's actually called, but that's what they call it. I think whenever you walk around, it's worth just switching the camera on and just have it in front of you and say your thoughts, because you never know, something might come up which is really worth having on film. Like you saw the other day how I wandered with my camera on into a situation where there was Václav Klaus signing books and I even got to shake his hand, all on film. So you never know what you're going to see. This is an interesting business selling Logitech stuff. That appears to be one of those photo frames. What I want to have is a PDF reader. I'm thinking of taking the big new Kindle. Velké snáš. Více než 100 000 hesel. This is the big book of dreams. More than 10,000 headwords. So it's like a big gold list, really. It's got 10,000 headwords in it. But it tells you if you dream of this or this or that, what the dream means, which obviously is, in the main, a load of claptrap. This, by the way, is the major national post office, and you're not supposed to film in it. So I'm going to go in there now and pretend to be talking on the phone, so that people don't realise that I'm filming it, and then you can have a look and see what it looks like on the inside, because it is rather impressive. So this is why my phone's off to one side at the moment, because I'm just pretending to talk and to listen. Checking that it's actually on. I have been known to make a great big long lovely film and then discover to my horror that it hasn't actually turned out right. As you can see from this, they don't want photography going on in there. Why the hell they don't is beyond me. And why they should think of putting cameras up next to weaponry as things which are not allowed is beyond me as well, but you know, they have their own paranoias. Checkpoint, another pun on the similar soundingness or homophony in English of Czech and Czech, the word to review something, to verify something. or a verification of something, or a ticking of something in some versions of English. And Americans could talk about check marks. The homophony of that with the name of the Bohemian nation, the Czechs in English, which doesn't usually carry well the sound and so there's the Palace Hotel that I went on a conference in 2003 actually, or was it 2004? 2004. The 2003 conference of Haworth International was in Marbella, and that was the 2004 European conference. Which I enjoyed, but it was the first kind of, that year was the first kind of hint that I got that all might not be entirely well between the Austrian firm and now a Polish firm, because they wanted to put their own firm into Poland, which finally they did, and pushed us out effectively. So, which wasn't very nice, and the way they did it also wasn't very nice, which is why I don't really go out of my way to try and do much business with them these days, although sometimes I do, because at the end of the day I suppose they didn't do anything to me that I wouldn't have done in their circumstances either, which I suppose I have to be fair and say. And at least they taught me a thing or two in the way they went about it. So it would be very hypocritical of me to hold that against them. At the same time, I'm not without a slight pang because of that, because we had such high hopes from it. It's a nice bridge of size at the end there. That's so nice. Culate panini, which is a circular panini. It's got some nice seeds on it as well. Well, that looks very nice, that culate panini. I'm almost tempted to go in and get one, but I've got my flight coming up in the afternoon. I don't want to eat too often today. This is Jędrzejska Street and Jędrzejska Tower. This is Jędrzej is almost like a kind of form of, I'm not sure if it's a form of Henry or a form of Andrew or a mixture of the two, but basically this is a Catholic bookshop, and you've got some special Catholic wine there, so that Catholic alcoholic can get his fix, and you've got some strange stuff here, licor girolti. I don't know what they are, but it's obviously it's not a word that came up in my dictionary on the first run through L. This one's called Tonic a Jaskinie Snow, which is Little Tony in the Cave of Dreams. Perhaps it's about Tony Blair, I don't know. There's the Jerusalem Bible, which I would hope that a lot of my viewers would know is what the Roman Catholics tend to call their translation of the Bible into foreign languages. It should, at the beginning, have an apology, of course, to the martyrs such as William Tyndale, who were burned at the stake for making such translations into the vulgar languages of common people in the Middle Ages by the Roman Catholic Church, which is, of course, semper idem, always the same, and semper fidelis, always faithful, and wanted to keep everything in Latin, and in order to do so burned old Tyndale, William Tyndale, at the stake, which is not a nice thing to do to somebody, although in fact it is, because you become a martyr, and a day's pain buys you an awful lot of brownie points in heaven. So maybe, you know, maybe they don't need to put the apology in so much, but certainly what they should do is at least say, we were wrong, he had exactly the right idea, and just to prove it, here's the Jerusalem Bible, which is our translation of the Bible into the Vulgate. Just tweaked a little bit here and there to help Catholic doctrines along. They might say the same about ours, I'm not sure, but I don't think that the King James people especially tried to do that. And but there's nothing really remarkably wrong with the Jerusalem Bible. I would, you know, if I didn't have another version with me and I wanted to read something, then I wouldn't mind picking it up and reading it. It has the Apocrypha in it, of course. The Catholics recognising the Apocrypha as canonical, which Protestants don't. I have no objection to reading the Apocrypha. Personally, I don't think I've read them cover to cover. I've read the Bible several times from cover to cover, but I haven't read the... I've dipped in and out of the Apocrypha. I haven't read them completely. Well, why should I? I don't regard them as canonical, but I don't regard them as harmful either. On the other hand, it's part of the historical writings of the Jewish nation. Why not read them? Go ahead and read them, you know. Just don't hang major doctrines on them. That's what I would advise. Ah yes, that's Copy General. I went to Copy General once, under the clock tower there, and I found it exceptionally expensive. It's got some deals up for doing Diploma Platzi, which is theses, for just 200 crowns, but I seem to pay an awful lot of money just to do normal photocopies that were done at mass levels that I couldn't handle on my machines in the office. And in the end I was sorry that I just didn't buy a better machine, because I probably would have paid back just on that one single attempt. Rather pretty girl. Yeah, I don't want to go down Senovajna. I want to go down what's it called? Dlaždina, Tyler's Street. Not sure what Senovajna means. It sounds like important dreamer. Sen meaning dream, as I already mentioned, and Vajni is important, so Senovajna sounds like important dream. However, many Slavic roots have more than one meaning, and Seno could be hay, and Vajit can also be to weigh something, so it could be a hay wain. If I was to guess it in an exam, I'd say hay wain. But you shouldn't, on the other hand, and this is where you cap it off linguistically, you shouldn't translate proper names. Sometimes they do get, for artistic effect, translated. If anybody's read Mila 18 by, is it, oh golly, tell me who the author is, I've forgotten already, but a fine, based on a weight of factual accounts, but not actually fact, it's fiction, it's historical fiction, about the the Warsaw Ghetto, a moving tale, Mila 18. Is it Leon Uris? Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Memory doesn't always serve, despite the gold list method. After all, I didn't gold list that bit. Perhaps I should start doing a gold list of all the works of art and literature and the person that did them, made them, and the date they were made. That might be an interesting gold list to do. Just thinking of extending gold list beyond pure languages and using it for other purposes as well. That's a project which I want to actually try and do before I actually get on to finish my book on it, because I think that I don't want to actually say, hey, you could do this, without actually having tried it. There's some interesting maps. I did want to have a map, didn't I? That's a relief map. Relief maps come in different sizes, but it's difficult to get just a pocket relief map. Pocket relief is not supposed to happen. You can get handy sizes. It's difficult to get a relief map that will fit in your mobile phone, because the bumps don't show up on the screen. Although you can get something which shows you it with clever shading, but it's not really a relief map, because a relief map is where, you know, a blind person could put their hand on it and feel, here's a mountain, here's a hill, here's a plateau, this bit running up here is probably a river, and this spiky bit that keeps on making me fingers think of petrol is a city. And Lajdana is Tyler Street. That's that one there. So here we've got Klub Vlastníků CD and DVD. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's an owners club of CDs and DVDs. Isn't that interesting? Owners club of CDs and DVDs. Presumably that means that if you are an owner of a bunch of CDs and DVDs, want to sell them second hand, or take your own ones and hire them out and have the shop taking part of the commission, yourself taking another part. Presumably that's what that club is all about. It's almost like a kind of physical version of BitTorrent, but with a bit more money involved, because you probably have to pay for this, that and the other to cover the guy's living and his rent. But still, an interesting idea. Some people don't like just having online music. Personally, I can't see what's wrong with it. I mean, at the end of the day, the music is the music, right? It's a flow of sound. It is not a plastic disc. What a strange book. It makes me want to look at it more closely and find out what it actually is. Oh, okay. It's just sort of normal letters AJ, but made in a slightly Arabic, if you like, looking way. And Poklad, Alois Yidashik, just his name, and Poklad would mean treasure, wouldn't it? Pokladna is a cash box or a cash desk. Pokladna. And the Krankenkasse, like a place where you go to get your rights, your entitlements for medical treatment. That's I might have known that was a Chinese woman. They have legs like nobody else on earth. But basically, one is put in mind of Lucy Liu in the film Kill Bill. Right, this is not a very good way to walk through this, but never mind. Yeah, the Krankenkasse, or the health fund, if you like, is Nemocnenská pokladna. So there are some useful words of Czech coming up today for those of you that want to learn a bit of it. My accent's probably dire, but then I'll get that later. The important thing is to put the whole vocabulary into the mind, into the long-term memory. You can work on accent in due course as part of the old activization process. Okay, so thank you for that. That was a what? That was a... Looks like 36 minutes, I'm not sure I can see it properly. That was a nice 36-minute walk and a chat. I hope I kept you entertained, and see you again on this channel.